Think Tankers, hey, it's Brian, one half of the Think Tank guys here, and we are here today with another episode of our 52 Ways to Put Our Policy to Work for our hashtag 52 Ways project. And the topic I'm going to cover with you today, hopefully rather briefly, and you could always ask Eric or I for details on this or to dive in deeper. But the topic is going to be revisiting the savings or investing for college, the college planning, the college investing, the college savings conversation. Quite frankly, because after Eric put together a video, we had a handful of clients reach out and say, Brian, can you just revisit that for us? And there's always some deeper conversations around the 529 plans. But in general, I want you to hear this statement, and then I want you to see it with some of the numbers I'm about to send you or show you. When we shove money in a 529 plan, which is the default plan or the plan that's sponsored by Wall Street with mutual funds that is supposed to be meant for college planning. It has some interesting tax attributes around it where the gains won't be taxed if it's used for college. It's effectively locked up, just used for college. When you send money and plunk it into a 529 plan, you are permanently removing it from your financial ecosystem. That's an important point because today what I'm going to do, let me say that one more time and then I'll explain. Today, when you put money in a 529 plan, you are making a decision to permanently remove that dollar from your world in the future. And I say that very specifically because many of us are on a path and we're trying very hard to save up and build up, and most people have retirement plans and they have 401ks and IRAs because they want to save for retirement. They want income in retirement. Well, the conversations that Eric and I have with clients around making sure at least a part of your dollars will always and forever be working for you is an extremely part of the compound curve, extremely important part of the compound curve. And when we specifically place dollars in a 529, because that's what we're taught to do, we're actually not placing them on our compound curve. We're placing it in an environment where we are deciding we want to send those dollars to a college someday in the future and never have those dollars work for us again. And that's an extremely important part to it's an extremely important item to talk about as we explore that point about the growth cycle over dollars and the compounding of dollars. Because our clients know, you guys all know, when you have money in an environment that's not exposed to the market, grows dependably, has some tax attributes, still fully liquid, you can use it for other things along the way. You'll be able to use it for college. This is part where the policy comes in, for college in the future without removing it from your financial ecosystem, without removing it from your growth curves. You get to partake in this growth cycle that will not stop. And the sooner you can get on that growth cycle, obviously the more you'll be able to benefit from the compounding. However, when we decide to use a 529 plan, like the bank tells us, like financial advisors tell us, like the commercials on TV tell us, we're intentionally deciding at some point to kill off our growth cycle. Most likely around a time, and this is also assuming that the mutual funds do what they're supposed to do and you've overcome fees and all that stuff. But you are purposely deciding to kill off your growth cycle at some point in the future. That some time in the future might be 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever. My wife and I just had a baby. We have Madeline. She's 4 months old today as I'm recording this. And actually this will probably be put out in a few weeks. So she's probably 4.5 months by the time you see this. I'm starting to think about, what are we going to, starting to think about saving for her. I am actually starting a policy for her, right? I already have policies on myself and my wife, so we're on those curves. But we're thinking about starting a policy for her more so she can get on this compound curve and then be able to use it for the rest of her life. And then we can, with what I'm about to show you, we can use it in the future without killing off that growth cycle, right? And I'm not about to tell you that the policy growing at 4 or 5, sometimes a little bit better percent inside, is going to outperform a mutual fund. Quite frankly, those mutual funds should outperform the policy. The problem is a lot of times they don't because of fees and volatility and just the way that the mutual funds work, right? But they should. So, and that's even taken into account with what I'm about to show you. It's not that the policy by itself is going to beat said mutual fund or said 401k. It's actually how it works together. So check it out. If we can harness the ability to not kill off the growth cycle, you're going to notice that there's a massive difference in outcomes. And when it comes to retirement planning, reflect back on the video that I shared about having more income in retirement when you add actuarial science via the policy, when you add that to your balance sheet. Reflect back to Eric's conversation about college and using the policy. When we tie in the policy to use it to absorb dollars that we would normally shift away from us, we get to harness this growth cycle. And then because of that, our retirement outcomes are improved. Check this out. In this example, I have married clients. Both of them are age 40. They have a 1-year-old child, 17 years until college, 25 years until their figurative retirement. They have a strong savings habit. They're saving towards their 401k. They're getting an employer match. They're cash flowing towards investments, right? Those investments could be a 529 plan. Those investments could be their retirement plan. Those places for those dollars, I'm not going to call it an investment because the policy is not an investment. That cash flow could be caught inside of a whole life policy on their balance sheet as well. And this is what I want you to see. If they decide not to save for little Johnny's retirement and these all assume 6% consistent returns for the mutual funds that are both in the 401k and the 529. You got to see these numbers. If they decide they don't want to save for little Johnny for retirement or for college and want all the dollars headed towards their retirement accounts, well, if they consistently get 6%, that account grows over the next 25 years. According to Wall Street math, they'll be able to pull out $100,000 out of their accounts and hopefully not run out of money. Okay? If they decide to peel off $5,000 a year for 17 years for little Johnny and shove that into a 529 because that's what they're told that they should do, right? Well, that's directly going to affect their retirement because it reduces the amount of money in their 401k. And yes, okay, that hopefully they're paying for some of Johnny's college if he decides to go to college, right? If college even looks the same as it does nowadays, who even knows what it's going to look like in 17 years? Different story, different conversation altogether. But when they peel off dollars that would have been going towards their retirement and now send them to a 529, and then that 529 is shipped away to the university, that's less money for their retirement. So saving for college directly impacted their retirement to the tune of $11,000 a year, according to Wall Street math on how much they can pull out and hopefully not run out. Okay. And over the course of a few years, that essentially is the cost of college plus more. It just exponentially adds because it's less money that's in their pocket for retirement. So saving for college reduced how much money they have in retirement. Well, if we take the same exact cash flow, if we take the same exact dollars that would have been going towards a 529, if they peeled off a few of the 401k dollars and also started adding some actuarial science, they added policies, one on him, one on her, policies to the ledger, policies where they can actually use the dollars between now and age 59 and a half, policies where they have liquid access to the money, policies where they get tax benefits on the back end, policies where there's dependability in the 4 to 5% range that they're hoping that bond mutual funds offer them, that they probably have in both of these plans if they're going with the Wall Street way. But if they peel off a few of those dollars, they accomplish the goal of paying for college and they increase their retirement income because they've added actuarial science to the ledger. Basically a personal pension type science. They increase their ability to, number one, pay for college, and increase their income in retirement to the tune of over 50% more than what you saw here, $160,000. And some, if not all of this money would be considered guaranteed by an insurance company that's been around for over 100 years, right? And they get to make choices in the future as to how much they want of that money to be guaranteed. They get to make choices in the future. If little Johnny doesn't go to college, they're not off track for their retirement. Whereas over here, somebody has to use this money in college, otherwise it gets taxed and penalized, right? So simply by redirecting certain dollars into a place that keeps the money on the growth cycle, remember we talked about that earlier, keeps the money on the growth cycle and adds the actuarial science to the list, we're improving, I want to make this blue. We're improving our retirement outcomes, and you can see some of those numbers down there. So, ladies and gentlemen, think tankers, I know some of you, some clients, we've already talked about this with you, but if you have any questions or if you're seeing this and you're like, Brian, how does this work and what's some of the numbers behind it? Just ask Eric or I. We can always do a webinar at some point, but we can also have a personal review with you to really show you not just how this worked, but more importantly, how you can take advantage of it in your own work. So in the meantime, think tankers, from me, Brian, one half of the think tank guys, Eric, the other half, to you. Here's to your prosperity.